Hey, this is Jason with Denwerks. Bought this really cool little '63 Ford F100, but and it drives wonderful and runs great. But when you get up to speed, it is a wandering machine. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to take the axle out here out of the front, and the kingpins, we're going to replace the kingpins and replace a lot of the bushings. But I want to show you what happens when the kingpins go bad and why it wanders around. If you look right here, the kingpin goes right through here. See how it's wobbling? So we're going to take that out of there, take the whole axle out, and we got new kingpins coming, and we'll rebuild the front end in this, and that should take care of all of our wandering issues. So it's not too hard. We'll do a step-by-step when we take it out of there and show the axle out and putting new kingpins in and everything. So we'll just do a little how-to so you can learn how to do it. It's a little bit of work, but I think you can do it in your own garage. So obviously the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the hubcap off. They snap on there pretty good, and pretty rare little hubcap in general. And we'll probably repack the bearings, stuff, check the bearings when we have it. But anyways, we'll get that wheel off here for you, and then we'll show you the next step. So we got the wheel off. You can see Stanley here's helping. He's getting the tools, but you're gonna take that little dust cap off, and you can see there the spindle. There's a little cotter pin, and you fold the cotter pin back. Looks like it's actually been recently greased. There's Stanley. Stanley, he doesn't need too much help there. And and he'll pull that through there and take that nut off, and then we'll pull the brake off, the drum here off. And so there we got the cotter pin out of there, and you just unscrew that nut off there. Then we'll pull the backing plate off.
Will come out.
Okay, pop the bearing. Don't drop it on the ground. Get it all dirty. Stanley, don't need to eat those bearings, and he thinks they're pretty good. So you pull that off there. Actually, the bearings, you know, have to feel them and stuff, but look fairly new. And then, what do you think, Stan? Look pretty good. So you can just wipe.
That's the spindle here.
Wipe the spindle off. The spindle looks good, and then we'll take the backing plate off. There's actually 4 bolts right here, and we're going to disconnect the. Well, I don't know. Oh yeah, we don't have to. So I'm kind of a novice, but you don't have to disconnect the brake line. You just leave it all hooked up. Take those 4 bolts off, and you know, just put it up here somewhere and hang it somewhere. So that way you don't have to take it all apart. Because if you look at the brake shoes and stuff, they look real good. If you were gonna replace brake shoes and all that stuff, then go ahead and take it apart. But overall, it looks pretty good. So the next step that we're gonna do after we get those bolts off, we're gonna undo the shock up here at the top and the bottom, and we're gonna take the steering apart here, and then we're gonna take the spring shackles off. We're actually gonna replace those shackles because they're a little, they just need a different kind of shackle on it. And then we'll go ahead, and you can see these U-bolts right there around the leaf spring on the straight axle. We'll take those off, and we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So after all those things are disconnected on this side, this whole side will be loose, and then we'll go over to the other side. Okay, so here we got everything disconnected, like I was saying. You know, hung the backing plate up, took the steering off, took the shocks off. You can see the U-bolts are taken off. But here's what you can see that kingpin, there's a pin, runs all the way through there. So we'll show you how that's done. We have to drive that out. Then you got to take a reamer. It's not just slapping another kingpin in there. You got to take a reamer through there, and you can use a hand one, or you can use one on a drill, and then you put the new kingpins in. So we'll show you the process on that, but overall the spindle looks good, and just go ahead and lower that down. Real easy. Make sure you put jack stands on your rig. put a couple blocks in the back so it doesn't roll, just a little safer. So that's how you kind of take the straight axle out. Not too bad. So here we got the straight axle out. You can see the spindle here, and normally what happens is we take some stuff apart, and there's a little press right there. So when we take it apart, we've already loosened stuff up, and sometimes these come out pretty easy, and sometimes they don't, and that's where you have to use the press. So we'll just show you the basic on how to take this thing apart. There's a you take that nut off, and there's a sleeve that runs down in there, and it keeps the pin the king pin together. You can see here. You notice we're using a brass hammer there. I'd actually prefer a nut on it when we did that so we didn't mess up the threads, but anyways. Now you see that kingpin came out of there really easy, and that shows how worn this thing is. You see this, and we have new kingpins on the way, and then that just slides out there. Normally, if that wasn't so loose, you'd have to bring it over to that press and press it through right here and take it apart. So anyways, when we get the new parts in here, we'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, here we are with the axle again, and now since you've seen it last time, we've actually cleaned it and everything and repainted it black, and we're going to go ahead and ream it out, and you're just taking off a tiny bit on the inside. It's nothing major, but when you put the kingpin back in, you know, it wants to fit real snug, and but you don't want to be hammering it in there either. So anyways, here's a little reamer. This is a hand reamer, and you can put them on a drill press as well, and but it's going nice and smooth, just cleaning out the inside. And you got to make sure when you buy a reamer that it's the same size as the kingpin. And I think it's, what was it, 50, can't remember. This kingpin here, oh, it's a 50, here you go, 55 by 64. So you can buy different kingpins and stuff. So anyways, we cleaned out the inside there. And you can see here we're going to put the kingpin in. You know, it's pretty snug, and you can see it doesn't have any wobble now like it had. So here's the finished product. I'll show you the other parts that are involved, but you can see here is the other side, the axle. You can see those Zerk fittings. You can see actually inside there those little grooves, and when you put the grease in there, that helps grease everything. And you can sometimes ream these out, sometimes you don't need to, but these were actually good, so we didn't have to. And right here you can see the bearing. It'll have a new bearing, so you can see here it's just all assembled, bearings down here, and we just got to lube it up and it'll be ready to go to put back on. So overall, it's kind of a do-it-yourself weekend kind of little project. So hopefully that helps you a little bit understand how to replace kingpins. You can see here we've got the axle all back in here. Got new shackles and everything, bushings, and but anyways, here's the axle installed. You can see here I'm shaking it up and down, no play in there, so pretty nice. And so on the other side we're putting the backing plate back on, and with new brakes and stuff, so that way it just gives you a good look. And we'll look at the other side in a second. So here we are on the driver's side again. Replace that kingpin. You know, there's no wobble, so we'll go ahead and put this backing plate. Just go ahead and show you how to put that on. And remember, when we took those off, no reason to take all the brake stuff off, you know, because we already have them done. And so anyway, you just fit it on there. You'll see the 4 bolts.
Long ones in the bottom.
You got long ones in the bottom, and there's some shorter. Okay, yeah, gotcha. So long ones in the bottom, and then the short ones on top.